You know what makes me really, really sad about seconds 24 to 30, where Indy is feverishly unlocking Willie from a rectangular prison contraption.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
Han
that's
Solo.
sad.
Yeah, it is. If you watch it,
Desperate.
yeah. If you look at it. Minutes, seconds 24 to 30. It's like Han Solo is dreaming that someone loves him and will come to his rescue. It's
That's
clear as
depressing.
day. Yeah, it is. It's actually really, if you think of it that way, it's one of the saddest parts of the movie.
Well, it's at least punctuated by the fact that now we know for sure that this is all a magic show because he does not burn himself at all on that molten hot,
Oh yeah,
that hot iron.
yeah. The Kali oven mitts were not around anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. It's amazing.
I did think of it. That was in my note, and I never said it. Anyway, so.
That's okay. It's going on now. We'll have
It's
it-
going in now. Thank you, Pete.
Indiana Jones, Indiana Jones, Indiana It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones, Indiana Jones minutes.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute, the podcast where we get to the heart of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom 1 minute at a time. I'm Pete Mummert.
I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Jerry Porter.
And today we're happy to welcome back J.W. Rinzler. He wrote The Complete Making of Indiana Jones, which we reference all the time on the show, as well as The Making of Star Wars, which I reference all the time in my personal life. And he has a new book coming out I'm excited about. We'll chat about it a little bit at the end of this episode called All Up. Welcome back to the show, J.W. Rinzler.
Thanks. Yeah, it's great to be back.
Woo!
Yay.
We're excited to have you.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about minute 87, which begins with Shorty helping Indy hoist Willie back up from the lava pit, and it ends with Indy pocketing the priceless treasures from the Temple of Doom altar.
I think I won the coin toss, and I get to call out the fact that happens at second 5, and that Chatterlol is alive.
Yeah.
He's weirdly alive.
right.
You can see him in the background crawling on his hands and knees, like kind of slumped over away from the wheel. And it's just strange. Like we didn't know yesterday if he was actually dead, crushed under that thing. And it seems like maybe he made it, but I don't know what happens to him after this.
Well, see, I have a theory here. I think this is clearly Kali magic right here because, you know, if your heart is ripped out of your chest or if you've suffered a severe myocardial contusion, it's all good. I mean, Kali has you covered. I mean, she has no problem keeping you alive if your ticker ain't talking. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
clearly, according to the Temple of Doom and this specific church, that's one of Kali's talents.
Yeah, she's good at
Yeah.
that. She's all about the heart.
Well, which makes me wonder, and maybe Jonathan, you can help us here. Was there a different death? We talked about this a little bit last minute, a deleted scene possibly that Pete brought up. But I mean, they had a different death in mind for Chatterlol, and it seems like right here he's still alive. He's crawling away. We don't really know. I mean, he doesn't resurface again.
Right. I don't. It's been a while. I don't recall what the different scripts had for him.
Well, we did talk about they had kind of a fight on the cage, and then Chatterlol ends up flying into the lava. But they actually looks like they filmed some of that because there seemed to be a couple of stills that leaked out from that eventually. But it doesn't seem like that matches what's here. So I don't know if I wonder if they did kind of pickup shots to get Chatterlol moving around on the floor, or how they reconciled that.
I wonder if that just happened after this. I think what if he got up, because you said it was after Willie was out of the cage, and she's not out of the cage yet. He's still bringing her up.
Oh, that's true.
So he could have brought her up, and then she's like, "Oh, look out! That guy who you thought was crushed under the wheel is still there." Oh, is that Chatterlol? He doesn't have his glasses on. I didn't recognize him. He's got a knife. Get him! You know.
That's a good point.
It says he grabs in the script, one of the early scripts, he grabs a gun from a guard on the ground, and we'll see a guard on the ground in a minute. So maybe this is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, it's probably one of those things where the original thing was much longer, and they decided to cut it down.
Yeah.
Which they often do.
Yeah, we've discovered that they've really cut a lot of the Chatterlall scenes and I guess a little bit of the his character development or exactly what's going on in terms of how he's affiliated, or you discover earlier that he's a bad guy. Then I think we just discovered that he's a bad guy a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I recall, there was a lot more sort of political stuff going on in the earlier versions of the script, and then there was different people drinking the zombie poison, and it was much more complex. And that's what happened. I mean, I'm sure you guys remember at the end of Raiders, the original ending was something like 25 minutes long, and George cut it down to about half and told Spielberg, you're never going to top the ending of Close Encounters, so let's not even try.
Wow, yeah.
I think Spielberg has a tendency to make things longer, and Lucas to sort of cut them back, and so it's probably what happened with this scene. He's still crawling around back there. It's a remnant.
Well, do you think Lucas had a lot of control over the editing that was going on, or do you think this was all...
For this one, I think he probably had less than on Raiders, and Raiders sort of Spielberg was bouncing back. And in between this, what did Spielberg do? He did E.T., right? So,
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Right.
I think it was probably, and Spielberg has his own editor, whose name I can never remember. It's the same guy who's edited all the films.
Michael Kahn?
But, I'm sure Lucas had his say. And, there's probably some discussion back and forth. But I don't know for sure, the short answer.
Sure.
Are they nice guys, Lucas and Spielberg?
Well, I know George a lot better, at 15 years of...
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I don't, maybe you guys don't... Yeah, I worked at Lucasfilm for 15 years, and George sort of, whenever he had a book idea, would quite literally pick up the phone and call me. So I knew him pretty well. Spielberg I only met once. I spent the day on the set, which I'm sure I told you guys about last time, for Crystal Skull. And I dealt with his people, as they say, quite a bit. But I didn't get to know. I didn't get to know Spielberg really at all. Although he seemed very nice when I met him.
Okay. I've never had the chance to ask somebody.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could go on and on about George, but the day I got to watch Spielberg direct was great. I mean, it was just amazing.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what percentage of these movies, these Indiana Jones movies, would you say is Spielberg, and what percentage would you say is George?
Well, it depends. Each one is different, I think. The first one had the most George in it, the Raiders movie. And then I think it gets progressively more Spielberg. And then on the last one, Crystal Skull, I think it might have been closer to 50-50. I think that it was definitely more Spielberg, but I'm not. I mean, I was there while they made that one, I haven't talked about it with Spielberg, and George didn't really want to talk about it. But it seems like at a certain point they kind of threw up their hands. And the movie was what it was.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and you look at the shots. I mean, the visual effects shots that Spielberg was accepting, and I'm sure that ILM was horrified. I just don't see how anybody. I mean, I'm not a visual effects expert, but those shots were, they were about 45% done. The shots driving through the jungle, and I think they just kind of threw up their hands. It's good enough, whatever. Something weird was going on.
Wow.
But Temple of Doom, I think there's about equal, but in a sort of more united way, in that they both are going through dark times. They both said that.
Yeah.
George is going post-divorce, and Spielberg was like in the middle of a breakup, and they did a darker movie than they intended.
Do you think when they reflect on it, they go, "We did a darker movie than we intended"? You think that they feel that way? Like, wow, that was darker.
Yeah, well, I think so. Yeah, I think
For sure.
I think they said, we'll do this and we'll do that, and then they saw how it all ended up, and they went, ooh, boy.
Sorry, America.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't know how old you guys are, but, I saw it in the cinema when it first came out, and when they started taking hearts out of people's chests, the whole audience said, what the, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was we're all about the same age, you know, in our mid 40s, and so we saw it when we were 12 or 13, and you know, of course, we were like, "This is awesome!"
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And but we've owned that part of it the entire time. That's pretty much what we're doing here today.
Yeah, it had a big effect on you guys.
It certainly,
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
That whole summer did between this and Gremlins. Like,
we embraced the new PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
Well, it was a good time to be going to the movies.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, the 80s were good.
you know, I had heard that Harrison Ford kind of kickstarted some of the Crystal Skull, you know, sort of push to have that coalesce or come together. Is that your understanding? He was a little bit more the force behind that. He really wanted to do another one.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think he really enjoys playing Indiana Jones. And then I know George was sort of thinking, well, I got to think up something until I can do that. You know, I don't want to do it. And then I think I do. I mean, you know, maybe I'm Lucas-centric, but I think if they'd stuck to his idea that if you're going to do a movie in the 50s and we're doing the B movie thing, then you have to do flying saucers.
I agree completely.
Yeah, I think it
I honestly
been,
do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would have been so much more fun. And Spielberg just didn't want to do that. He'd done too many, you know, alien movies.
Yeah, and he sort of blames it on Independence Day coming out, like as they were having the idea or something. He's like, "Well, you can't have that many alien movies, can you?"
Yeah,
Like,
that's
wait a
true.
minute.
That's a
I
good
think we
point.
could have plenty of alien.
I believe, yeah. You you can't have too many alien movies.
Come on.
I mean, look at the success of Arrival, which barely had any aliens
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
It's weird that you have to explain that to Steven Spielberg. I mean, he gave us E.T. and Close Encounters and War of
He's
the
the
Worlds.
reason I love aliens today.
Exactly, right.
I know, at War of the Worlds. I mean, how great was that scene when it comes out of the ground in the beginning? One of the greatest scenes in the history of cinema.
That was crazy.
And that guy can direct. One thing I just want to say, just because I thought it was so funny in this clip that you guys saved me, is when she kind of just barely is able to slap Indiana Jones.
Yes.
The sound effect is so funny.
Ben Burt just goes all up on all faders.
Yeah.
Well, and what's interesting is you know, she gives him a right cross slap, and Indy kind of, you know, he lurches the other direction, and it's exactly like that one punch in the plane scene in Raiders.
Yeah.
I was
He
thinking
kind of
that
gets
too.
that side punch, and he twists the other direction. Sort of the,
Well,
Right.
this is one of those scenes I think would have had a lot more weight if they had been able to film the scene where Indy goes up and Willie escapes from the thuggies earlier on and goes up to get help, and then Indy comes up under the collie blood and prevents her from doing it. And I think if that had been in the film, this slap would have had a little more gravity behind it too, because then you really understand. Oh,
Right.
she really gets that he was in this black sleep.
Yeah. Although he did just, put her in a cage and lower her into a
That's true.
pit of lava.
I guess
Yeah.
she has reason to be upset.
She's irked.
What's funny is that his reconciliation with Short Round is actually much more heartfelt than his reconciliation with
Oh, yeah.
Willie.
Oh, yeah.
Willie's like, yeah, I'm obliged to kiss you. You know, I've got to do that. But then with the kid, it's like, we're soul brothers, man.
Yeah.
Let's go kick some ass.
Yeah. Bring it in.
what's funny is what I was thinking is, you know, when Willie slaps and Marion punches.
Yeah.
That's kind of they do receive the same sound effects treatment.
That's true. That doesn't quite seem fair because, as Marion even said, that she learned to. Did you say she learned to hate him or learned to hit him in the last 10 years?
She
when
learned to
punches
hate him.
Indy?
Yeah, I've learned
Yeah,
to hate
hate
you
him.
in the last 10 years.
But the punch probably comes with the hate. So maybe if he ditches Willie and then runs into her again in 10 years, she can punch him with the exact same sound effect. Like
That's true.
full-fisted.
She'll discover the beauty of a closed fist.
Yeah.
Well, and right before we get Willie in the slap, I like that you've got Short Round operating the winch, and Indy says, "Give me some slack." And I wondered if that line was kind of, it almost seems like a plea from George Lucas and Steven Spielberg here.
Lighten up, will you?
But I like he's a kid, and he obviously when they're watching that heart ripping ceremony, you can totally see him sitting there like watching the winch guy the whole time, like, oh, look at that, that's cool, I want to do that. And then when he gets a chance, this is like, yes.
It's gonna hurt your back, kid, when you're about 28.
Yeah.
But we were talking about last minute, like it looked like Shorty was fighting a guy, or he was torching a guy right out kind of at the edge of the screen.
Yeah.
And when he's giving some slack to Indy, you can see two guys lying on the ground, one's completely covered in blood.
Right.
Oh, wow.
What's he been doing?
Yeah.
Shorty, stop it.
And I wondered, did Shorty torch the one guy and he woke up and killed the other guy, or did Shorty just dispatch both of these guys?
It's probably best we don't find out.
Yeah.
But one of the things I think is really funny during this whole thing is the amazingly passive, thuggies on the other side of the abyss.
Yeah.
They're sitting there for about
Yeah.
25 minutes. Not one of them's, if they're that crazy, shouldn't they be trying to jump across, even if they fall to their death? I mean, shouldn't they be doing something instead of just waving their arms about? They're really...
Well, it's exactly like a video game crowd. Like we sort of talked this a little bit in Raiders at one point, but they act like a background scene in a video game where they kind of do the same animation over and over.
Yeah, they're like a gift crowd.
Well, and it's a gift crowd. Well, Tom, you mentioned, it calls back to, all the denizens of Tanis, or the streets of Cairo, where we can't really determine, who they're cheering for in Raiders, in that entire sequence. I feel the same way
yelling.
here. Yeah.
But it's the same way here. You wonder, are they, because they had the exact same reaction to Willie kissing Indy as they had when Indy was fighting Shatter Law.
Yeah.
And are they just generally happy to watch entertainment and that they're cheering for that, or are they?
They're excited to see anything
Right.
that's not a heart being pulled out.
I
Wow.
think they just like a general rumpus.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Yeah, it's as if they didn't shoot quite enough coverage of those guys, and then Spielberg just says, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's what I have. This is all I." Or the editor said, "This is all I've got."
I mean, run some of it backwards, maybe? I don't know.
What made me laugh is, that kiss that, shared between Willie and Indy, and then you see Short Round smile, and it's kind of this little creepy smile, like, I'm gonna hear all about that later.
Well, I was watching. It's kind of funny to see how short, just in this 1 minute you guys sent. If you watch it without the sound, to see sort of how the editor Spielberg cuts to Short Round to cover certain things. It's interesting. Like first, when Indy's taking Willie out of the cage, he kind of pulls her out, but you don't want to have the whole thing of her getting out, walking over here, getting in position so he can kiss her. So you cut back to Short Round, and he's smiling. And then there's Indy looking at the skull with the sacred stones in it. So you cut to Short Round, and I think that's because I don't think you can take the stones out of that skull. I think they were probably built into it.
Oh.
Oh, they like screw them in like a light bulb, or like.
Yeah, exactly. They were
That's
screwed in, so if you pulled them out, there'd be a cord behind it or something, and that would look pretty stupid. So you have to cut back to, you guys have to unplug it or something. So then you see him in front, and you can tell he's not doing anything because he can't really take them out. So then they cut to Short Round, and then Short Round gets the sack and throws it to him, and then he's shoving the Sankara stones into the sack. So I just love that sort of movie magic, covering your,
cool.
how can you cheat?
Well, and then we very specifically gets Indy's theme right there.
Oh, sure.
Makes a cameo,
Yeah.
a strong cameo.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, the music is great.
It's ironic, too, because when he runs over there, he's running as though his back is absolutely killing him.
Yeah.
He's running super stiff and like my dad. It looks just like my dad when he's running like that.
And I'd never noticed before until I started watching this really carefully. You can see like a giant black singe mark on his side.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a giant where Shorty
Guess that
burned
makes
him.
sense, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like second 48.
Wow.
Oh, Tommy,
Good continuity.
I have horrible news for you.
Okay.
And
I can
you're not going to be able to sleep tonight.
Oh, God. All right.
Yeah, this is going to be tough for you. If we can all go to second 54 and freeze on Shorty running, maybe watch that second.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you do it and take a look at the background. Like maybe go to second 52 and just let that kind of play.
Yeah.
Tell me why I'm going to ruin your evening. Oh, it's really bad too.
Is Willie some kind of a statue?
Oh, Pete, we have a Toht Willie Scarecrow.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Is it? Okay, because she's...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I didn't see that. Oh, God. Oh,
It is.
You know
It's
what?
fake.
That actually
Really
just scared
creepy.
me. That actually just... Oh, my God! Oh, that is so crazy! Oh, Jesus!
I knew it. Pete, can we please cue the psycho knife plunging sound effect?
Oh, I need a minute.
We got
Oh,
another.
my gosh.
We got another Toht Scarecrow second.
That's very creepy.
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
my gosh.
Tommy. I'm
okay,
sorry
because,
to do that
okay,
to
in the
you.
next minute, I didn't know what she was doing. She's like doing something weird back there that I don't understand, but that's in the next minute. But I did not see... Oh, my God, I did not see
It's
that.
really
just there.
bad.
It is really,
Really creepy
Exorcist
and bad.
levels creepy.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Creepy.
God. I'm not going to be
Second.
okay.
Second 54. Well, we should explain to Jonathan in
sorry.
Raiders. The most disturbing minute for Tom, wasn't the face melting or any of that stuff. The smiley guy getting pushed off, pushed off a cliff. It was this one shot where they, Belloc's car pulls into Omar's garage, right? And there's one shot where you see everybody in the car, but it's like they have this Scarecrow stand-in for Toht. And
Just for like one shot.
Yeah, just for one shot. It's clearly not a human being, and it's just like this scarecrow draped in black with a black hat, and that just ruined Tommy's year.
Yeah. I'm having a new hard time now.
We kind of have to, obviously, being one of his best friends, I need to try and find a way to ruin this
Thanks
season
for
for
nothing,
him.
Jerry.
Well, it's like you guys are kind of, by watching this stuff so carefully, it's almost as if you were there while they made it, and you can't watch it again anymore. You can't watch it innocently
That's
anymore.
a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know too much.
Well, one of my biggest reservations of doing this was just, are you sure you want to, ruin these movies that I love by watching them 1 minute at a time, which is just torture. It's a horrible idea.
Yeah, it's really collateral damage. But, you can wait 10 years and watch them again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Actually, and you learn a ton, not only about the movie, but just about things in life, like what type of snakes are indigenous to where. And I didn't know some bats are diurnal.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, they're just, some of them are they're active during the day. You just assume bats, but yeah, we see Temple of Doom. The bats are flying around during the day, which some bats actually do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I saw some in Australia do that.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah.
Big ones. But just because we're doing this, I just want to brag just because they're right there in the middle of the thing. I've held those Sankaras. They made a lot of them, and there's
wow.
like 7 or 8 of them in the archives. So I've held them in my hand, and I was tempted to juggle a few, but did not because the archivist would have had a heart attack.
Are they heavy?
No, they're not heavy. I mean, there's different ones. There were some that were made to light up. The ones they have are just sort of, there's a kind of some material in them that makes it look a little bit like they're glowing. But there's a bunch of them in the archives, and then if you visit Skywalker Ranch, when you go to the main house, sort of the main house where George has his office, and the main floor, there's a display case that has some Indiana Jones stuff in it. They have his hat and his whip. They have one of the Holy Grails, and they also have some of the stones in there too. And if you guys are ever in the area, look me up. I'll try and maybe you can try and go see them together.
Oh my God.
Oh
Definitely.
yeah, absolutely. I'm just still laughing because you said there's 7 or 8 Sankara stones.
How do you not rule?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like Mola Ram's going to get the 5th one and be just profoundly disappointed.
Anything else anybody have on minute 87?
Oh, wait a second. I'm getting something coming through here.
Oh, that's odd.
Booster this just in from Professor Christy Porter. Who are the Sigma Chi's rooting for here?
I love that everybody's confused by that because I thought I was the only one.
Yeah.
I was just talking about the pledge class that is the Temple of Doom acolytes.
Totally.
Sitting there,
they definitely look like a pledge class. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking, we're confused who they're rooting for and what they're rooting for. If they just they get excited anytime somebody has a myocardial trauma.
Well, I do like then this minute ends. You get this. Just the beginning of this really nice moment with Shorty, but you get a sort of a really beautiful version of the Raiders March, and I think it's very fitting that it happens right as he's looting a church. So it's like old Indy is back.
It's what he does.
Good
Right.
point.
He's in his element.
And he hands him his hat, right? The hat is, for some reason, his soul, in all the movies.
Yeah.
He never leaves his hat.
Yep. Excellent. Well, Jonathan, you've got a book coming out. I'm excited to hear a little bit about. I'm a big fan of kind of the early space age, and I know a lot of people listening to this are. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your new novel.
Well, sure. I'm pretty excited to talk about it. You guys are officially the first podcast that I'm talking about it on.
Awesome.
Oh, great.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, so I thank you for that. And it was a book that I guess you could say it was in the making since I stayed up and watched the first moonwalk, back in 1969, and it blew my 6-year-old mind. And but obviously didn't say I'm going to start writing the book then. But many years later, actually right after the Star Wars celebration for Episode 3, I was driving around the country and ended up in Huntsville, where I was pretty ignorant and didn't know how important Huntsville was in the whole history of NASA and Apollo and everything. And I went to the museum there and saw all these books with Nazis on the cover, and I thought, what is going on here? Because I really didn't know much of anything. I just hadn't had time to do the research, so I dove in and for years just did nothing but read about it and read every book I could get a hold of, and I realized I thought this could make a good novel. This could be great historical fiction. And then I sort of say, well, let's wait a year and see if you still want to write it. And I wanted to see if the idea was really good, if it really stuck. And so it did. And then so it took me about 3 to 4 years of really very intense research, specifically devoted to the book, and then writing. And I thought, I'd write like a 150-page almost novella just to sort of tell people show people how exciting the story was. But it turned out to be more of an epic. It's more like Game of Thrones length.
Wow.
James Michener length. Which when you think about it is right, because it's really 4 or 5 stories in one. The book follows it's sort of the biographies of the main players, starting with Robert Goddard and the Russian Korolev and the German American Werner von Braun, but really German, and then Jack Parsons, the sort of crazy occultist, explosive experts, who co-founded the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And you can't make this stuff up. The stories, what these guys lived through was so amazing. I mean, Korolev survived the Gulag. Werner von Braun had, just his life was unbelievable. Working basically as a Nazi. I mean, of course, that's debatable, and people have been debating it for a while. But showing Hitler around, and then the same guy is showing John F. Kennedy around.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the only. He's the only one. And his passion for space travel was, inspired really 2 whole nations, really, Germany and then America. And And then, of course, the astronauts are important. And then you have the stuff that you can't talk. And this is why I decided to do it as a novel and not nonfiction. There's just a whole slew of stuff you can't talk about, which is not 100% verifiable, which is, what are the connections to UFOs? Freemasonry, Buzz Aldrin took a Freemason flag up to the moon with him.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
What was there? Yeah. Many of them were Freemasons in the administration and many of the astronauts. And all sorts of things that you can't really talk about if you're going to be an if you're going to be an academic or a legitimate historian. But as a novelist, you have more latitude, whatever you want to call it, to go into these things and also into the minds of the characters and try to imagine what they were thinking. But I tried to stay as close to the verifiable facts as I could, and it's just such an amazing story, and I've tried really hard to tell it as well as I could, and I'm very excited because in about 2.5 weeks you guys can read it, and I hope that people are going to enjoy it.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And you can find it on jwrinzler.com, I think, right? Like there's some...
Yeah, you can pre-order it now. And it's only $2.99 now.
Awesome.
I'm practically giving it away.
Cool. Well, I'm super excited, and I've already pre-ordered mine, and I definitely urge everybody listening to go check it out at jwrinzler.com.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it.
Congratulations. I mean, it sounds like something you've been working on and certainly thinking about for a long time.
Yeah, it was roughly, 4 years in the making, maybe 5.
Wow.
But, and I'm hoping that it's that people enjoy it, so I can write the next one.
Yeah.
Cool. And we'll put a link to that also on our website if you want to visit us at IndianaJonesMinute.com. We'll have a link up there, and we'll put a link up on our Facebook group as well, Indiana Jones Minute and the Listener's Crusade. And otherwise, you can join us right back here tomorrow for minute 88 of the Indiana Jones Minute.
I'm sorry to do that to you, Tommy.
I'm all freaked out.
That was a tough minute for you. I'm sorry to do that to you.
Not gonna
Second
sleep.
54. It's pretty dark.